never thought I'd say this, but I'm a mom now. I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was like 16 years old, and I was already dating my husband. And initially, the reason I went in was because I had stopped getting my period regularly, and I didn't go to the doctor for that. I went to the doctor when one day it came back, and it lasted like 2 weeks, and I got a very heavy period. Clots were insane, so I decided to go in. And after I told her like my other symptoms that I have been having, and then of course like there was other symptoms that went along with that I'm not gonna get into detail just because that could be a whole other video. She said, you have PCOS, and I had never heard about it, honestly. She explained to me that it was, and I just remember that one of the things that stuck out to me was that she said that it was gonna cause me to be infertile. She didn't tell me like, I mean, you could get pregnant, but it's gonna be really hard. She just made it seem like it was literally impossible, which I later learned in life it is not impossible to get pregnant with PCOS. It's possible, but yes, it is very hard. So I remember telling my husband, because I knew he wanted, and we had talked about having kids in the future, of course, because I was still 16. So I told him, I was like, hey, I was diagnosed with PCOS, and that means not being able to have kids. And as much as it would suck and I would be very sad, like, I don't blame you if you want to leave me. Oh, I put on too much foundation. I don't blame you if you want to leave me, because I know how bad you want to be a dad. And he said, no, I'll stay, and you know, God will decide. He has the final say. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, she literally said it would not be possible, because that's what the doctor told me. Now I understand that is not true. We got married when I was 20, and initially we didn't want kids right away. We wanted to wait a bit, and then after a while, I think it was like after a year, we were like, well, if it happens, it happens. We were living in an apartment at the time, and I decided to go off birth control, and I was like, well, it's all in God's hands. And I told myself I wasn't gonna like try, but at that point I wanted to be a mom so bad already that it was hard not to focus on it. And a few months went by and I wasn't getting pregnant. A year, 2 years, and nothing. And if you're currently going through this and it's heartbreaking when people are constantly asking you, trust me, I've been there. I absolutely hated it. Friends, family were constantly asking us like, "Pa cuándo el bebé? For when are you guys gonna have a baby?" And it would just be like, how some people I would feel comfortable telling them like, well, yeah, we're trying, but it's not happening. And other people it was kind of uncomfortable telling them, so we would just smile and, you know, nod. It did start affecting me, like, after a while. Like, every Mother's Day was really hard because I would see people, you know, becoming moms and how much they enjoyed it and what a beautiful journey it seemed. And I wanted that so bad. Like, I think there was 2 or 3 Mother's Day where I would actually cry on Mother's Day, and Ricardo was always so sweet and made sure to give me gifts from our fur baby since I was her mom. So that was always very sweet of him. But eventually, oh, and let me add, I would always have people tell me like, you know, it's gonna happen when you least expect it and when you don't try. And I know it's from a well-meaning place, but now I don't like to say that to people, because when you really want something, like I remember when people would tell me that, I'd be like, how do I not want something I want with my whole heart? How do I stop wishing it, you know? So we got married in 2017. Probably started trying around 2018, 2019. And then in 2022, I switched jobs. Okay, so we probably tried for like 4 years with nothing happening. And in 2022, I switched jobs. And I was working at a law enforcement agency. And one of my main tasks was to process reports. So you guys can only imagine the type of stories I saw while working there. And some very heartbreaking things. And I remember one day there was a particular story that really impacted me that I'm not going to get into detail. But it really impacted me, and I'm like, why do people bring kids into this world? Like, we live in such an evil world where you can't trust anyone with your kids. And I'm like, why? Why are people bringing kids into this world? And I remember that day, like on my drive home, I literally was crying because of that. Just that some kids, like, they just don't deserve the lives they got handed to them. Like, they deserved much better, but we as human beings are just crappy sometimes. So I got home and I remember telling my husband, I was like, I don't even think I want kids anymore. But I think he thought it was just because I was having a bad day. So he's like, yeah, kind of just listened to me, and that was that. I like one day told him like, hey, like, I'm actually serious about this. Like, I've decided I don't want kids anymore. And I don't want to get pregnant. And I know we haven't, been using protection, but now I really don't want to get pregnant, and I don't want to risk getting pregnant because becoming a mom scared the living daylights out of me. Like, to me, it was just so much pressure. Like, thinking about trying to keep a child safe in this evil world was making me sick to my stomach because of all the evil I would see in reports and that I would see what's going on. I was like, I didn't even want to go through that. I told my husband, I'm like, so I'm literally telling you right now, I don't want kids anymore. I'm like, I'm sorry. I know before we got married, we had this conversation and we both wanted kids, and now I'm changing my mind and telling you I don't. So that's also not fair to you, right? So this is your opportunity to, and we were already married, keep in mind. I'm letting you right now, I don't want kids anymore. So that means, if you stay with me, you're not going to be a dad. And you guys, Ricardo, like, when I would see him talk about becoming a dad and when I would see him with kids, I could tell there was nothing he dreamed of more in this world. And I'm going to try not to cry when I talk about him wanting to be a dad because he is just such a good dad. So, and I remember talking to one of my coworkers about this. And I'm like, I also feel bad because I don't want to prohibit him from that dream of his, because I could tell there was nothing he wanted more in this world than to be a dad. So initially he was like telling me like how he didn't think I was making a sound decision. I was just letting my job affect me. And even when I told my mom, she was like, you need to leave that job, it's affecting you, blah blah. And I'm like, no mom, it's because it's not the job's fault. Like, this is reality. Like, this is a reality of the world just because you guys don't see that every day. Ricardo and I kind of had some discussions. We literally like argued, which, it's something I'm not going to get into detail because that's very private, but we argued for like a whole week. And I told him, you need to take as much time as you need to make a decision, because this is literally going to impact the rest of your life. And if you choose to stay, I don't want you to later on be like, I just stayed because I made a, I felt bad or whatever. I'm like, I really need you to think about this and be sure of what you're going to decide. And he was like, okay. So this was the summer of 2023. And I mean, was I scared? Absolutely, because I didn't want to get a divorce from my husband. And I also knew it was going to be really hard to tell people why, like, that it was because I changed my mind and I didn't want kids. Like, people were going to probably think I was being nuts. because a lot of my family and friends knew how bad I wanted to be a mom a few years back. So he eventually took his week and he was like, you know what, I decided to stay. He was like, I guess I wanted to be a dad, but I also see what you're saying, and if it comes down to just being you, me, and Coco, then it is what it is. And I could tell he was sure in his decision, so I was like, okay, it is what it is. And I remember a few months after, we had started looking for cars, and we even thought about just getting like a little sedan, like we wanted either like a Subaru or a Lexus. We're like, well, we're not gonna have kids, so let's just get a sedan. But then we ended up going to a dealership and I saw a Jeep I really liked. That's an SUV. But I'm like, yeah, we can still use this even if we don't have kids, because we're always going on trips and family rides with us. So I'm like, it's fine. So we ended up getting an SUV. And during this time, I had also started a meal plan and going to the gym. I do need to do a separate video of like my whole PCOS journey and like getting my period back, how my friend played a big role. She was a holistic nutritional therapist. And she put me on a lot of things that really helped get like my hormones back in line. But anyways, so along with that, I started meal planning and going to the gym. You guys, before pregnancy, I was going to the gym Monday through Friday and sometimes even Saturday. I would wake up at 3:30 to go to the gym. Now I'm like, who was I? I miss her. And I started losing weight. And eventually, not right away, eventually I did start. So March of 2024, I started semaglutide, and then I switched over to Ozempic, and then I switched over to Wegovy. So I used that from March of 2024 to June of 2024, March, April, May, June. So I used semaglutide, Ozempic, and Wegovy for 3 months. So from the time I was meal planning, going to the gym, and then I eventually started using Ozempic, Wegovy, and semaglutide, I lost 40 pounds. And by losing that weight, I noticed that my period was more and more regular, and I was like, that means I could probably get pregnant a lot more easier now. I know there are people who have regular periods and still don't get pregnant. For me, I had never had a regular period, and since I saw a lot of things in my body changing with hormones, I was like, maybe I could get pregnant now if I tried. But I also don't want to try. And then during this time, I also started going back to my therapist to talk to her about like our marriage and kind of like the harsh little time Ricardo and I had trying to decide to be parents. And I remember she laid a bomb on me, because she's seen me since I got married. Actually, she's seen me this whole time, through jobs and through becoming a wife and through other traumatic things that happen in the course of that. So she knows me very well, and she's very good at her job. And so she went from me telling her I want to be a mom so bad. I remember even like there was times I would sit down during our sessions during the holidays, and I would tell her like I wouldn't look forward to holidays because I knew it meant we were going to be getting asked when we were going to have a baby. Let me do my eyeshadow. My eyebrow, because then I can't talk, and then I'll come back. Okay, you guys, where was I? Okay, so I went to therapy and I told her everything that was going on. So she was like, so you went from really wanting to be a mom, you've been dreading the holidays because families would ask you about it and then you would cry, to you don't want to be a mom anymore. And I was like, no. And then I explained to her why, because there was a time I went MIA on her, my job transition. So I explained to her my new job, everything I was seeing, and why. And I just kind of saw I could tell she was about not to agree with me and lay a bomb on me. She knows me well, but I'm starting to know her well too. And she's like, I don't believe you don't want to be a mom. And I'm like, no, I do. Because I personally, not a professional, literally believed. I was like, no, it's too scary, blah, blah. Like, I don't want to be a mom anymore. This is not what I want. She's like, you do want kids, you're just very afraid. She's like, you are letting yourself be controlled by fear. And I was like, I didn't even say anything to her. She's like, you do want kids, you just are, you're afraid. Which I was. She's like, so you're telling yourself you don't want kids, and you've literally told yourself that so much now that even you believe it now. And I was like, well, damn, girl, I guess you got a point. Then the time rolls around that I start using these injections, and I remember when I was using the injections, I did my research and I was looking at people's videos, and a lot of people in the comments would tell others that would start these injections, like, be careful, like, as soon as I got on these, I got pregnant. And I was like, yeah, right. Like, I had tried for 4 years. Like, why would these injections change anything? I am just trying to lose weight. And my mom, sometimes she already knew not to be pressuring me to have a baby, but sometimes when she would like tell me that she was praying or whatever, I'm like, well, you need to stop praying because it's literally not going to happen. We don't want kids anymore. And sometimes on my own family, there were certain family members that I would like shut them down really quick. And my mom even got me in trouble because she said I was being rude. But I'm like, it's more rude for people to be pressuring me. But anyway, so I told her to stop praying about it. I was like, stop praying. It's not going to happen. Ricardo and I have decided we don't have kids. And we started telling people that. We decided we don't want kids. We decided we don't want kids. Blah, blah. So I get on these injections. I go to therapy. And she makes me see that she's right. It's not that I didn't want to be a mom. I was just afraid of it. And that's okay. So then I see him start losing weight. And I'm like, man, I guess I could get pregnant now. But I believe that when something is God's will, there is nothing you can or can't do to stop it. Like, it's going to happen regardless. So I'm like, well, only he knows. Like, if he wants me to be a mom. I really didn't think he was going to trust me with such amazing task because I didn't trust myself. And one day I decided, I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna go back to not using protection, but I'm not gonna try either. Like, if it happens, great, and if it doesn't, good. I let Ricardo know. He was like, okay, well, it's your choice. And so that was probably in like March. But then while I was losing weight, they told me, like, you can't try to get pregnant with these shots. I was like, oh, just kidding. I was like, I guess I can't not use protection right now because the person I saw at the time told me that if I got pregnant while using them, it could cause issues to the baby. Let me do my eyeliner and I'll come back. Okay, I'm done now. So once the provider told me, like, you should not get pregnant or try to get pregnant while using this because it can cause issues to the baby, I'm like, well, I definitely don't want that because with PCOS, you already risk so much when getting pregnant. I didn't want to accidentally get pregnant and then have something happen to the baby and I was going to blame myself for using those injections. So I was like, I told Ricardo, I'm like, you know what? We need to start using protection again because I don't want to risk something happening to the baby. He's like, okay. We did not. We kind of forgot because in my mind, I'm like, yeah, right. Like, I just spent so many years trying. It's not going to happen now. And I remember even one of my coworkers telling me, like, she's like, you need to stop playing with fire. And I'm like, I do, huh? And then 2 weeks later, I find out that I'm pregnant. And was I scared? Yes, because I knew I had been using the injections. So I was very scared when I found out that I was pregnant. And you know what's funny? So my birthday was June 15th. And I remember thinking, because I planned to have a glass of wine on my birthday and I didn't know if that was going to escalate. I was like, I hadn't got my period since April and it was June. And keep in mind, my period had been regular up until this point. But sometimes it had stopped being regular. And I had been losing so much weight at the time that they said that your period can sometimes get irregular when you lose a lot of weight, like it's normal. Blah, blah. So I wasn't too worried about it. I didn't have any symptoms. But out of precaution, because of the alcohol I was gonna ingest, I was like, I wanted to take a pregnancy test on my birthday. Well, I ended up being very busy on my birthday. It was a Saturday, and I totally forgot. Monday rolled. Sunday was Father's Day, so my birthday was Saturday. Sunday was Father's Day, which I wish I would have found out on my birthday, so I could have gave that as a Father's Day gift to Ricardo. But oh well. Father's Day Monday rolls around, and we were still getting up at 3:30 in the morning for the gym. And tell me why. When I get up, I was like, oh yeah, I never took that pregnancy test because I had it on the counter. Why did I decide to take it at 3:30 in the morning? I don't know. Actually, I think it was like 3:17 because I have the video, like, you know, that you record. I took a picture of the pregnancy test after I took it. But anyways, I take it literally thinking nothing because I had no symptoms. I'm like, this is just a routine pregnancy test for me. It didn't even make me sad to see negatives anymore because I had decided, like, if there's no kids, great. If there is, we'll embrace it. I looked down. First off, before getting pregnant, I used to think that the day that I found out I was pregnant, I was gonna like look at the test and I was gonna like cry immediately. I saw those 2 lines and I literally started shaking immediately. If you know me, you just know I'm very unsure of myself. So I was like, what the heck? Like, I just remember thinking, what did I do? And I was like, crap. And I was just kind of standing in the bathroom. Like, do I tell Ricardo? Do I not? Great, I got mascara on my nose. I was like, maybe it's a false positive. So I had another test. I took it. It was positive also. I'm like, I am freaking pregnant. So I tell Ricardo, which I will probably make a video like uploading all our family's reactions at a later time. He nearly collapsed. He was super happy. I went to the doctor. They confirmed it. And now we're here. Thank God, the entire pregnancy, like one of the main things that studies had shown, and this was only in like rats, from what I saw, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I only read so much research. From what I saw was that the injections caused deformities in babies. So that was a huge worry for me. Thankfully, my child is a-okay by the grace of God. It was all in his timing. So I told Ricardo on June 17th. That same day I had to go tell my mom, and she showed me on my birthday's June 15th. On June 16th, she had wrote a prayer in her Bible because she hadn't gave up even though I told her to stop praying. She had wrote a prayer in her Bible that said something along the lines of, thank you for blessing my daughter with another year, and now I ask you to please bless her as a mom. Little did she know, the very next day, God was going to answer that prayer. My mom is... I have to take deep breaths because I don't want to cry because I just did my mascara. We're going to have to take this one slow. My mother is 90% of the reason that my child is here. Why do I say that? Because she continued praying when we had already stopped. And I know that God listened to her prayers. And if I wasn't wearing makeup, I'd probably let myself cry. But I literally just did my mascara. So I'm not going to do that. But so when I told her, she literally dropped to her knees and praised God. She is a prayer warrior through the whole pregnancy. And during my labor, because she was with me, she was there praying. And God answered, thankfully. With my pregnancy went fine towards the end. Like literally the morning of labor, I did get preeclampsia. But thankfully, I healed okay from that. And we got our miracle baby. Through all of this, my husband has been the amazing father that I knew he would be. Now that I see him being a father, I'm like, I can't believe I was gonna deprive myself of the blessing to see him become a dad. I make this video with lots of goals. First off, my number one goal is if you have PCOS and are going to infertility, it's to give you hope. I am not telling you to go the route that I did because it's not recommended by doctors. What I do want to tell you and encourage you is to continue praying. And I know when you're going through it, it's so hard to stay positive, and people like me might sound so annoying. And maybe if you do have PCOS and you followed me through my pregnancy journey, maybe it hurt you, and I'm so sorry for that. But my goal is to let you know that you're not alone. A lot of us have gone through it and know what it feels like on Mother's Day, know what it feels like when family asks you when you're having a baby, or friends, when you're in the midst of praying every night for that miracle. So that's my number one goal, to let you know that you're not alone. I am going to be sharing through videos everything that helped me with my PCOS. But you also have to keep in mind there are different PCOS types. So what works for one might not work for all. But I'll be more than happy to share what helped me. If you have also gone through PCOS, and even if you have or have not had a baby, but if you found anything that has helped your symptoms, feel free to drop it in the comments down below to help others that will be watching this. Also, if you have any testimonies of you getting pregnant with PCOS, feel free to share them down below. My second goal with this video is, if you are in the same shoes that I was, where you are too afraid to have a baby because of the type of world that we live in. I do feel like I've suffered from a little bit of postpartum anxiety, not depression, but anxiety. Which I was already a very anxious person before becoming a mom, and now it's like multiplied by 100. But one thing that God told me one night as I was praying is He reminded me that our babies are His before they are ours. In Spanish, there's a saying that says, "Los hijos son prestados," and I've never understood it more than now. That in reality, like, God lets us borrow our children, but they are first His. So we have to trust that He has a plan for them, and He won't let anything happen to them that is not in His will. But ultimately, our kids will also have freedom of choice like we do. We can raise them up as well as we can, and at the end of the day, it will be their decisions with what paths they choose. So with that being said, thank you for sitting through my spiel and my story. I did forget to say, I had lost 40 pounds before getting pregnant, and I obviously gained that during pregnancy. And out of those 40, right now I'm still up 28 from my starting weight in pregnancy. So I've lost some, but definitely I'm not where I was before. And as much as I would love to lose weight, I think my number one goal right now is going to be to just get my hormones in check, because they change so much during pregnancy and after. And then once I get that in check, then I will start focusing on fat loss. But sometimes even just getting your hormones in check automatically has you losing fat. So feel free to join me on this journey by hitting subscribe down below. Thank you all so much for your support in my vlogs. Like I said, I'm going to be doing more of these story times. If you're waiting for that miracle baby, I am going to be praying for you that God grants you that, and in the meantime grants you the peace while you wait for your child. I know that all of you longing to be mothers will be amazing mothers when the time comes. That being said, I will see you guys in my next story time. Bye.